So in this video, we are going to go over calcite design system out of the box. So not too much JavaScript. So before, this is about as much HTML as that we had. We had a div for the map, and then we had a link into our main.js. You may notice that, okay, there's a big chunk coming after line 16 there in that. Now in our main.js, there's just to import the style, and in our style. There's nothing. So it's just to show you, hey, there's no extra stuff that we're adding here. We did add the part for IntelliSense that we are adding to all of our base projects, and we do have the Vite config to fire off the app in the tab and the designation how to compile web workers. So other than our little adjustments on how we want to set up a project, I mean, there's no JavaScript that we've added. So whatever happens here comes with the web components. Now, one thing to notice is that there's a lot more HTML now, right? So that is a transition. So when you have web components, you're basically extending the HTML language, which means you get these new tags in that. Like we have here, calcite shell, right? Calcite shell panel in that. And then we get into this whole kind of slot concept that this is standard this is a standard H1 tag, a heading 1 tag. But I say, hey, what slot to put it in? The header slot. Well, whose header slot? Well, who are you inside? I'm inside the calcite shell right now, so that'll go into the calcite shell's header slot. And that I make a calcite shell panel and that, and I put it into the panel start. I do believe, if I don't have videos, we'll put some up on just what the calcite shell is. But it is the closest thing that I saw from my experience when I first saw it would have been the border layout in Java. Now that's been around for a while. That was all the way back into Abstract Windowing Toolkit, and still exists in Swing and JavaFX, but it is where they break the app up into sort of a top, bottom, left, right, center concept. I think in Abstract Windowing Toolkit, it used compass designations, north, south, east, west, center. Those, they changed the words to, by the time of Swing and JavaFX, I believe it's start and end, top and bottom kind of concept, and that. So in a calcite shell, okay, besides there being a header and footer, those usually go all the way from left to right. So headers at the top, footers at the bottom, and then you jump inside there. The app is broken up into some main areas. There is a top and a bottom. There's a start and an end. And then they don't say center. That's called default. If you don't say what slot to put something in, they'll put it in the center slot, or the what they call default in the middle in that. So a big thing you do is you create some standard HTML, and then you place it into a slot, right? And again, whose header? Well, you're inside this calcite shell, so it'll go in its slot called header. This panel is inside this calcite shell, and so its content will go into panel start, which is sort of an area, I guess, that between the header and footer goes from top to bottom, okay, and is to the left, right, west of all the other content, and end would be to the right, to the east of all the content, and that but there is a top and bottom, and there is a sort of center that they call default. So inside this panel over on the left, okay, what's going to be in there? Well, it's going to be a calcite action bar, and calcite action bars have actions, and so we have an action called layers. We're going to give it the layer icon, and here I changed the name slightly just to show that it's the text in here that shows up as the menu name will say. And that this will make more sense once we run this and that. And so we have a bunch of actions ready to go, and we're using icons by name that are part of the calcite systems. The calcite system will go hunt those icons down for us in that. So what we should do is, I'm going to see if I got a browser ready to go. I've got one right about here. Okay, that's from a run before. And we will run this again and I'll bring that back. So eventually once this starts running, it should pop up here. We hope, maybe, and it did. There we go. And So it's a demo of an action bar out of the box. So I didn't add any JavaScript code here, but there's some interactivity. Any interactivity on a web page is eventually going to call some JavaScript somewhere in that. So it went and found these icons for me, right? No tooltips right now. I would have to code those in that. But this ability to collapse the action bar or expand it, then collapse it, expand it, collapse it in that. And then having this text. So when it's collapsed, it just shows the icon. When it's expanded, it shows the icon and the text. And the text is coming from here, this item called text in that. So we do have a little bit of functionality in terms of the menu can resize itself, or this action bar can resize itself. It's over on the left-hand side, so this concept of panel start in that, and it resizes itself. So there's a bunch of stuff going on there in that, and it's finding the icons, which is good, which is great in that. And so just by using the Calcite web components, we start to get a little bit, some gains, as they say, already in that. And again, this header goes all the way, it's on the top, all the way from the left, all the way to the right. We don't see a footer because we don't have one in right now. So then all these things expand to grab the available real estate. But our action bar is functional. Okay, there is this thing of when you click on one of these tools, it's almost like the active tool harkening back or calling back all the way to Avenue in that, the active tool. And so it changes the background color and it puts a little blue rectangle in there about which tool is active. The technique that they show, there's lots of ways, there's lots of ways to figure out which one did they click on. The way they show it in the samples is to use these data hyphen attributes. This is an HTML standard that anything called data hyphen in JavaScript you can hunt down, and it's kind of like a named list in that, where you can pull out, or properties where you can pull out, I guess you'll eventually find these action IDs. So this part we wrote, right? And so we know on the JavaScript side, when we find this thing called data set for this particular component, we know, okay, it's going to be there, and we find this thing called action ID, and that it'll probably get converted to camel case and that. So action capital I, no underscore, no hyphen capital I on that. So it'll switch it to camel case for us and that. And then we're looking for these words like layers, base map, legend, bookmarks, information to find out which one did they click on. Okay, so which one did they actually click on and that. And again, this tons of techniques to attack. How do I tell that? How do I tell which one they clicked in that? But this is sort of a standard way of doing it, and it is one of several methods to do it, and it is the one that they show in some tutorials. And it's interesting to see where, this is something you can only get used to by playing with the Calcite design system. Sometimes you'll see a JavaScript approach to solving a problem. Sometimes you'll see a stock HTML way of handling things, in that, like deleting all the children of a parent element to clear out a list and things like that. Classic HTML way to attack a problem in that. So it's something to get used to, because again, you're using someone else's components. They're designed how they want them designed, and that. They are W3 consortium like web components, so they're future-proof, which means they're going to be using stock accepted standard ways of doing JavaScript and HTML in that. But it's always interesting to see, well, how, I know a couple of ways to do this. How do they attack it in their framework concept in that. But again, Calcite components out of the box haven't added any JavaScript code, And so there's a few things that will keep coming back to, like the data attributes on a tag, the slots of how you place content within one of their web components, and that. But again, out of the box, we've got a few things happening. The content's being laid out. It can resize itself and collapse itself, and the icons are found, which is all great stuff. And that's basically all we want to go over in this video. So that's all for now.